Hello， 嚟到葡萄牙最緊要就要係試下呢度嘅美食啦。葡萄牙就出名海鮮啦，我自己咧最中意咧就係呢度嘅龍蝦、蜘蛛蟹同埋炭燒蝦，同埋佢嘅海鮮飯啊。如果大家攞住黃金簽證，每年嚟7日嘅時間都唔需要擔心，因為無論係大人、小朋友、長者都會揾到啱你哋中意食嘅嘢啊。好啦，我哋而家就要即刻開餐啦！今日帶大家嚟到行下葡萄牙嘅大型超市 Continente， 講個秘密俾大家知啊！唔知大家一路睇我嘅影片，有冇覺得我有咩唔同呢？呢幾個月以嚟，我跟住註冊營養師嘅指引，成功減咗20磅，仲學咗好多營養學嘅知識添啊！今日帶大家嚟到行超市，除咗體驗下物價，仲同大家分享下有啲咩健康嘅食物同埋手信可以買翻屋企。入到嚟超市，第一樣我哋會睇嘅就係奶類啦。葡萄牙當地嘅超市咧都有唔同嘅奶類噶喎。包括係脫脂奶、豆奶、低脂芝士、乳酪等等，呢度嘅物價咧都比較平嘅，就好似我啱啱咧就買咗1升嘅牛奶，都只不過咧係需要0.82歐元，即係話港紙大概6蚊咋，係咪好抵呢？建議大家嚟到旅行都可以每日飲一杯牛奶，補充所需要嘅鈣質。其次就係蛋白質類啦，日常我哋見到嘅牛肉、豬肉、雞肉同埋海鮮都係蛋白質。葡萄牙就出名食海鮮啦，我自己咧就好中意食呢度嘅大蝦、蟹、沙甸魚、三文魚等等。另外咧，你都會見到有好多嘅海鮮罐頭㗎。例如啱啱我喺超市入邊行咗一轉，見到呢啲嘅罐頭咧都係大概1歐元就可以買到啦，都真係好抵啊！不過咧留意啊，如果你想買沙甸魚嘅話咧，油浸嘅沙甸魚咧係會比較肥嘅。如果想健康少少咧，就可以買番茄汁或者係鹽水浸嘅沙甸魚啦。我自己咧就最中意食咧番茄浸嘅沙甸魚，好好味㗎，仲有豐富嘅 omega 3，食完之後咧皮膚都會靚啲，買嚟就手信咧就啱啦。當然啦，如果你有朋友係想增磅嘅話咧，咁你可以考慮買呢個橄欖油嘅沙甸魚俾佢。提提大家，葡萄牙當地咧都有好多沙甸魚啊等等嘅鋪頭啦，咁個價錢咧都有啲差別嘅喎。如果你喺沙甸魚嘅專門店咧，大概你會見到可能係10歐元左右一罐，但係如果你行超市咧，你會見到呢度咧都係1歐2歐左右咧就買到噶啦。大家記得做一個精明嘅消費者啊！另外，葡萄牙當地咧都好出名食海鮮飯啦，亦都有唔同嘅海鮮意粉，份量都比較大噶。基本上咧一個飯咧都可以好足夠2個人食噶啦。不過咧海鮮飯咧就比較鹹，食完咧都可能會水腫噶。咁大家咧就可以考慮買翻啲車厘茄啊、薯仔啊等等咧，就可以去水腫啦。另外啊，最重要咧就係出嚟旅行咧，好多時候咧我哋咧都會唔記得咗食蔬果啊，有時咧仲未必會去到便便，去旅行嘅時候就會好辛苦啦。咁大家嚟到咧都可以考慮咧食多啲蔬菜同埋水果啦，例如大家會見到超市入邊都會有得賣嘅車厘茄、香蕉、橙，都有好豐富嘅鉀，可以幫大家去水腫，影相嘅時候都會靚啲㗎。啱啱我就喺度買咗一盒車厘茄啦，你睇下咁大盒都淨係需要2歐，即係10幾蚊嘅港紙咋。另外行超市嘅時候，我亦都學識咗睇食物標籤，睇翻呢個成分啦，你會見到佢用得越多嘅就排得越前。例如係呢個啦，我好中意嘅海鮮飯，成分表裏邊第一個咧就係飯類，就係代表呢個產品裏邊含量最高啦。如果你想揀一啲健康嘅選擇，其實好簡單，你攞起同類型嘅產品，睇下唔同嘅標籤，就會可以揀到低糖、低脂等等嘅食物啦。好啦，講完我嘅超市分享，講翻呢個 Continente 咁出名嘅品牌啦。大家如果有記得咧，我哋上次嚟到葡萄牙都去咗一間咧仲係興建緊嘅超市喎。估下而家係點？呢一間超市咧，而家咧已經完成咗，喺舊年啊2024年嘅年底咧已經開咗業啦。而呢個基金咧目前亦都發展得幾好喎。喺今年啦2025年嘅第一季咧就會開多3間嘅分店。目前呢個基金已經去到第2個階段啦，嚟緊呢仲計劃會喺葡萄牙開得越嚟越多嘅超市。可能你會諗啦，既然呢個超市都已經咁出名，點解仲要越開越多呢？ 要解答呢個問題，我哋就一齊去了解下究竟呢個 brand 點解咁 famous， 同埋同基金經理傾下偈先。So, what makes Continente such a famous brand here in Portugal?
O que é que torna o Continente uma marca tão famosa em Portugal?
É pela proximidade ao cliente e sempre os melhores produtos ao preço mais baixo.
The proximity to the customer and having the best and the most fresh products in the market, and of course having the lowest price possible as well.
Since this store was opened in November last year, how do you see the number of customers?
Desde que a loja abriu, em novembro, como é que tem observado o fluxo de clientes?
Surpreendentemente, no início realmente temos bastante fluxo e temos tido sempre a aumentar e sempre com novas caras.
Surprisingly, when they opened, they saw a big influx of customers, but they also noticed that once they opened, this inflow has been increasing week by week, and they are only seeing new faces every day.
And so, what is the busiest month?
Qual é que é o mês mais busy, mais forte do ano?
O mês mais forte é dezembro, pela proximidade do Natal e a passagem de ano.
Claro. The busiest month is December. We have Christmas, we have the New Year's Eve, so it's a very crazy and rush month.
How do you think the opening of this store would benefit the local community?
Como é que a abertura desta loja beneficia a comunidade local?
Sim, porque realmente a comunidade não tem acesso a tantos serviços, é uma qualidade mais pequena. E com uma loja Continente conseguem vir, tem bocadinho de tudo, realmente que beneficia bastante a comunidade.
We are in a local community, and prior to the opening, the access to this kind of services was very limited. They would have to drive away for 20-30 minutes. And now with this new store, they have walking access to the wider range of all kind of products. So we will say that now the community have much more quality of life and the potential to choose what they really want.
The in-store experience will always be popular, or do you think it will be replaced by e-commerce, online shopping?
Acha que a experiência física na loja vai ser sempre prevalecente e popular, ou vai ser substituída pelo comércio online?
Online tem estado sempre realmente a crescer, mas a loja física, neste tipo de comunidade, é sempre uma mais-valia, porque nem toda a gente tem acesso ao sistema computador e realmente ver a loja é sempre uma mais-valia.
Of course that the e-commerce has been growing every week, every month, every year, but in this kind of community not everyone has access to a computer, and it's also in-store experience. You have something that you don't have online. You have the personal touch, you have the advice, you can see the products by yourself. So of course the online will tend to grow, but the physical will prevail.
Okay, so now I need some support. As a guest, what do you recommend me to buy here in the supermarket?
Como é que podemos aconselhar a nossa colega no comprar e que podemos comprar aqui no nosso supermercado?
Qualquer produto da marca Continente, mas os frescos é sempre o nosso topo.
O vosso forte.
Sim.
Any product of Continente's own brand, Continente, but of course the fresh products, these ones are the ones that you should keep your eye on.
Okay, let's go shopping together then.
Let's go.
Let's talk about the exciting supermarket funds. Wow. Since the inception of the first phase in 2021 until now, it has been 4 years. How has the funds been performing?
Well, quite well, let me tell you. We have already in place 4 supermarkets. From these 4, 3 of them, we have already sold them to a family office in the north of Portugal, meaning that from the expected pipeline for the first 5 years, which were 9 to 10, we are 50% performing in terms of units, of course, but we are doing it very well. Shana is very happy with us.
How many supermarkets do you plan to build?
Well, When we talked the first time, we were talking about Series 1. And we have now Series 2. And why so? Because for Series 1, we had 3 years to get more investors for our portfolio, to invest in our portfolio. So these first 3 years have already expired. So we had to set up a new fund that will co-invest with Series 1 and will profit on the pipeline of Series 1. I would say that until 2027, we expect to have more 10 supermarkets.
Wow,
Okay.
so in total 20.
I would say 14, 15 in total.
Wow. And what criteria do you use to select the construction sites?
Okay, we study every parish that Sonai asked us to do. We see where we are. We are only on the coastal area of Portugal, the most important municipalities. We do our studies in terms of cost of life, in terms of people who lives there, their wage capacity, all these sort of things. And we ask Sonai, are you interested in doing this? If so, we agree on the rent. And of course, if everything agreed, we start for construction. And for you to have an idea, when we start with the idea until we have the supermarket in place, let's say it's almost 1 year.
Almost 1 year.
1 year, yes.
So almost 1 year for each unit to be completed.
Correct.
Yes. And everything is in between the timeline right now.
Correct, yes. Things are running very, very well. 1 year, when I say 1 year, it's from the beginning of the idea. But for construction, 3 months.
That's really quick.
Yeah, it's good. And all our supermarkets, we are talking about proximity stores, not anymore the big jumbos. We're talking about a total a place of 11,000 square meters, sorry. And for the store, between 2,500 and 3,000 square meters.
So apparently this is a very safe investment because it's supermarket and it's everyday needs. But talking about potential risk, do you think there is any risk in these funds or no risk?
Well, there is always a risk, of course. And the risk is Sona itself, because we are dealing with a tenant. I don't know anything about supermarkets, at least how to manage them, but they know it very well. They are, let's say, the best in doing that. The risk is if something happens with them, but we can always have the place because we own the place, you know.
So you can change it to a different brand if anything happened?
Absolutely, yes. That's it.
And so as an investor, what will be the expected return? Or what are the actual return for the investor who have already invested back into a few years ago?
2025, it's a very good year for us. So we expect it to be a very good year for us because it will be the first year we are going to pay to all our investors the remuneration or the expected remuneration since inception. Because, you know, it's in the bylaws. We promised everybody, or all our Golden Visa investors, to pay them 4.5% or up to 4.5%. So, but as a private equity fund, we can always have funds only when we do the exits. And we did already the first 3 supermarkets. So we got funds enough now in 2025 to pay everybody since the first day they are invested the 4.5% on a yearly basis. And from this moment onwards, they will receive on a yearly basis. Okay? So in terms of IRR, which is the internal rate of return, the fund is expected to generate between 10 to 12% per year. But once we grant our Golden Visa investors, the buyback agreement, we cap their remuneration on the 4.5. And the difference between this 4.5 and the 10 or 12% the fund generates in terms of performance is the difference, or is the funds we put aside to pay you back on year 5 if you ask us to be repaid. That's what we have.
So one final question. I have been talking with a potential client last month about these funds, and he was asking me, with e-commerce being more and more popular, do you think there is still a need for people to visit this supermarket store, or do you think this will be replaced by e-commerce that people can just order online and they don't have to go?
It's a good point. E-commerce is really important, and Sonai is leading the process in Portugal also. Because it's funny, because last month they opened the first store in Portugal without cashiers. You know, you go to the supermarket and you leave with your goods, and you are paid via your credit card, like in Amazon. But in the meantime, they still have the classic stores. As I mentioned before, not the huge stores, but the proximity ones. Because people now, apart from the e-commerce new concept, they do manage their treasury quite well. I have to manage my own salary quite well, because life is not so easy. So it's not as it was in the past, that people used to go to the supermarket once a month or twice a month and they bought a lot of things. No, now I go to the supermarket when I need it, because it is nearby. Okay, and this is the new concept we are putting in place in Portugal with Sonai.
So this is like a concept of being convenience store that you can go whenever you need.
Correct. That's it.
That has been very great. Thank you for your sharing.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
今日帶大家一齊行咗葡萄牙嘅大型超市，了解咗呢度嘅物價。如果你都打算申請黃金簽證，而又想揾一隻保本嘅基金呢，就可以考慮呢一隻超市嘅基金啦。基金嘅第一期喺2021年成立，目前嘅表現非常之好，而家已經發展到去第二期啦。而最重要嘅係黃金簽證嘅申請人分別可以喺第6、第7、第8年之後進行回購，即係話他日當你攞到國籍之後呢，就可以原價攞返你嘅本金啦。而喺投資期間，申請人每年嘅預期回報係去到4.5%，呢一樣嘢都好清晰咁寫咗喺基金嘅 Management Rules 入邊㗎。今集就講到咁多啦，下集我哋會帶大家去里斯本動物園一齊去睇長頸鹿啊！下集再見，拜拜。